Hello, my name is Will Shrigley and I used to work at Qdoba, the so-called Mexican grill. Now I know what you're thinking, worked, that means doesn't work there anymore. And you'd be correct, I only worked there for about 3 months. But I still think I got a good amount of work experience in fast food working there. Just kidding, no I didn't. I hated working there. Don't work there. Now I'm not gonna completely bash or hate on Qdoba or anything, because it was my first job. And it wasn't awful. I'm just gonna tell you that working there was a bit interesting. Starting off at 17, I had no real work experience. I mowed lawns for my dad's friends, but that was pretty much it. The closest thing I had to restaurant experience that I had was this little candy store thing that we worked at my middle school. It was called the Snack Shack, and it was sort of just like a little store to sell candy for people after school. It wasn't anything too advanced, it just sold things like Hershey bars, Reese's, and some soda. But I put on my resume because it was the closest thing I had, and I mean, there was a cash register, so there was math, so it was sort of similar. Anyway, I knew I wanted to work with food because I love food. So I chose Qdoba because I ate there a lot and I thought it'd be a pretty good place to work. Boy, was I wrong. When I first got hired, I remember walking in with a resume in my hand and asking for the manager as any simple teenager would. And literally, I got the interview within 5 minutes. I think it was the fastest any business has ever hired someone because I applied on a Friday and walked in with my resume on a Saturday and got the interview. Looking back on it, that's probably a red flag that I shouldn't have worked there. On my first day, I specifically remember thinking, I'm gonna learn how the chips are made, how the salsas are made, and specifically how to fold the burritos, because that's like the main part. But no, that's not what happened at all. You'd like to think before you start working at a job, you'd get trained to do your job. Not only is it important for you, but from a business standpoint, it's way more efficient to have a team that knows what they're actually doing. That's why I was so confused when I walked in and they just put me directly on the line. If you hired a bunch of people without teaching them anything, you'd probably end up wasting more time by having people ask questions and figure things out than if you just initially taught them and trained them. And that's another thing, figuring it out. When working at a job, you're not being paid to figure it out. You're being paid to serve people food for this case because it's at a restaurant. And so with no training, I didn't know how much food went in each burrito, I didn't know how much queso to add, and I damn as hell didn't know how to fold a burrito. Anyways, they threw me online. I had an assistant manager sorta guide me through the line and sort of just tell me how it sort of worked. I got one walkthrough and apparently from then on, you're supposed to know everything from that point on. It was honestly that SpongeBob episode where SpongeBob's showing Patrick how to put a lid on a jar and he just kept saying, do exactly as I do. In case you didn't know, at Qdoba you can actually order a lot more food than just a burrito and a burrito bowl. And I know this is probably my own fault for not knowing ahead of time before I got the job, but still with some training I would have liked to think I would have known everything way more. So there's taco salads, burritos, burrito bowls, quesadillas, and 6 tacos that you can get. Now the tacos aren't like the burritos, they're not like what you can just throw on. They're menu items, there's 6 of them. And so those you actually have to memorize what goes on each taco. And since I didn't get any training at all, that means that I had no clue what to do whenever people ordered a taco. Every time someone ordered a taco, I'd literally take it and just pass it on to the next person because I had no clue what I was doing. Now how the line is distributed at Qdoba is there's the hot table and then there's the cold table. Usually there's one person on the hot table, they're the person that heats your tortilla up and they put on the rice, the beans, the meat, and the queso. Then there's the people at the cold table, there's usually 2 people, and those are gonna be your salsas, your guacamole, everything else. And so every time someone would order a taco, I made sure as hell I was on the first table or the hot table, so then all I had to do is take a flour tortilla or a corn tortilla, slap it on some tin foil, pass it to the next person, and they do the whole thing. The main problem with that is A, I never learned how to actually make any of the tacos, and B, it looked like I knew what I was doing. I didn't. By the way, who even orders tacos at Qdoba? It's like $9 for 3 tacos and nothing goes in them. You might as well just get a burrito or a burrito bowl because it's like $8 and if you don't finish it, you can have it later. For anyone currently working out there at a fast food restaurant, doesn't matter which one, I am sure all of you have had a story where there's been a customer that comes in 5 to 10 minutes before closing and it's just the absolute worst. For me, it was like 10:52 or 53. There's already 2 to 3 people in line. We closed at 11, so we were already pretty much like tying down everything. However, someone else walked in and I was at the hot table at this point, so I wasn't thinking anything of like what was about to come because I only had to do a minimal amount of effort. This guy had the audacity to order 3 bowls and 2 burritos 5 minutes before we close. First of all, I don't know why you're going to Qdoba at 10:55 and on like, it was like on a freaking Sunday. Second of all, why don't you just go to like King Soopers or Walmart and get a bunch of snacks and spend less money, and since you're apparently getting food for like your friends, you can get more food. I mean, it really wasn't a big deal because we don't have dishes, so it actually wasn't terrible. One thing I forgot to mention is that working at Qdoba, the main way to communicate is through a group chat, which is honestly the worst idea possible. Take it that there's like 30 plus employees all being in the same group chat. It's not a pleasant sight. I mean, obviously you can direct message people and you can ask for covering shifts, but this group chat was not a thing. Every time you asked to cover a shift, almost every single time, everyone responded with, no, I'm busy, I don't want to. You couldn't change any of your shifts because no one ever wanted to work. So it was pretty much impossible to get your days covered by someone else. However, on July 4th, I was like, I'm not gonna be doing anything. I knew that ahead of time, and some girl, she needed a shift change or whatever. I was nice enough to cover her shift on a holiday. Technically, you get paid time and a half. That was the main reason why I did it. I was like, I'll get paid time and a half. The day will go by pretty fast because probably not that many people will be there because they'll be spending the holiday with their families and everything. And that's exactly what happened. We didn't sell a single meal for 2.5 hours. I've never not worked so long at work ever. And so all the food just immediately got cold. So during this time, all I ended up doing was pretty much cleaning. Cleaning. Basically at Qdoba, if no one comes in, you clean. So you clean like the lobby area, you clean like where all like the forks and stuff are, you clean the tables, you clean like the line and everything, but you don't stop cleaning. So these 2.5 hours were not like your stereotypical, oh, we just ate food and like messed around and whatever. No, the whole time was only cleaning. Eventually, since the food did get cold, we obviously changed the food so it wasn't like bad. Even still, my parents came in at around like 4 or 5 and they ordered food, and when I came over to them, they were like, oh, it's still like cold and I'm just disappointed. But I was working on a holiday. I got paid time and a half, so I wasn't gonna let anything get in my way. Until right then, the manager told me, you don't get time and a half, which is the main reason I even took this shift. It's July 4th, it's a holiday that businesses should pay time and a half for. I don't know why Qdoba doesn't. I ended up asking my manager because I thought it was like a state law, but apparently it changes from business to business and Qdoba just doesn't feel like paying time and a half on holidays, which how? Now, being a teenager, obviously, when you're deciding where you want to work, if you're going into food, a huge factor is where do you want to get free food from? And when I started working at Qdoba, you got 1 free meal per shift, and then when you were off shift, it was like a discount or whatever. Except July. Kid you not. They told us, I remember the last shift, my manager told me, we're not going to be doing free food anymore because probably losing money, whatever. Food that we work with for 8 hours isn't even free. Why? And even when you were making lunch, you couldn't make it yourself. You had to have someone else make your own lunch because they were too paranoid of people giving themselves more proportions, which I guess makes sense. Except that's the biggest insult to someone that's not going on their break. I'm gonna go on my break. But can you, that is not on your break, you're gonna make my lunch for me, and then I'm also not going to pay for it. Okay, last story is actually about how I don't work there anymore, and I gotta say, this is the weirdest thing that's probably happened to me with a business. So I was never fired from Qdoba. Nor did I quit. Genuinely, my manager, my assistant manager, no one told me or communicated to me in any way that I was done working. I wasn't planning on being done working either, so this came to a surprise to me as well. What ended up happening is in the group chat, I would just see the schedule and my name just never kept appearing. So I just never got scheduled for like 1 to 2 to 3 weeks. After about the end of the 3rd week, I opened my group chat. I got kicked from the group chat. That's how I knew that I couldn't access the schedule anymore. So I just assumed I was fired, even though no one actually told me I was just never scheduled ever again. I was fired from a real business company by being kicked from the group chat. No communication, no email confirmation, no one telling me anything. I left the chat. The only thing from the system that they had on the computer was that it said position and it was like available or not filled, which previously it said was taken because I was working. But when I saw this, I actually laughed. On what planet does multi-million-dollar business company act like an immature 5th grader and passive-aggressively just pushes someone out of work? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my work experience at Qdoba. I've actually yet to go back to that location since I was fired, so I don't know if anyone that works there is still there. I choose sort of to go to Chipotle now.